Everyone visible? Okay, I'm not sure if recording has started. Yeah, it has. All right. So let me switch my camera off. So far, uh, let's do a quick recap of what we have done so far in React. Basic setup is something that we have done. That's fine. That's something that is kind of a muscle memory by now. Everyone can do it. The basic setup, right? Creating React application and just applying those three libraries: React, React DOM, and Babel, right? Then inside it, we have learned how we can write or at least start writing an HTML code. First thing first, we need to get a first point of contact, which was your root file, right? Root file name, root component, or root tag, right? And it's rendered in root.render. How many times can we render a root.render once a page loads? One, right? And if you want to render it again, the root, you'll have to refresh it, right? Although there's a hook altogether, we'll start discussing about it on from Monday itself, when we'll start with like ये जो हमने पूरा SRC multiple लिखे of scripts and all, right? This is not the way of doing stuff with React originally, right? It's just how it was done initially. Take Originally, we'll just write a small command in terminal. Everything will be created from that installation only. All we have to do is just start typing code, nothing else. Clear? So we'll start doing that from Monday, but today we'll just cover fetch and all, and then that will be the end of this thing. Clear? So the second thing that we learned about was how we can create multiple components, right? Right? And these multiple components, if I wanna reflect multiple pages in that case, right? You know that React is going to be a single page application. You won't be able to, or it won't be advised to do something like window.href. Remember window.location.href जो करते थे, right? So it's not recommended that you do that because React is a single page application. एक ही जगह से start होगा. It won't have multiple different HTML pages, right? At the end of the day, everything will get compiled into a single page. All right. So now from here onwards, we got a brief idea कि how we can create multiple pages, did we? कैसे कर रहे थे? By toggling, right? By toggling or by calling another function inside it. Your level 2 problem from day 2 where you had to create multiple forms, right? So wherein first you will create a form, right? एक form आएगा, and then this form has to be filled. Then only you can visit another form inside it. Right? So ये कुछ नहीं है, you just have a component over here, right? एक form component होगा. Once this is done triggering, then inside this form component, after loading everything, you call another form component, and then another form component, and so on and so forth. Clear? Finally, we learned about how not just sharing data from parent to child components, we even learned how we can do that from child to parent kind of. Right? So what we did was we sent a updater function in your child component, and that updated it, and original state already update over here. So we gave it a name. It was state upliftment. Right? And the other one where parent to child we sent stuff, what was that? What was that called? Prop drilling. Clear? Clear? So far we have covered just this only, right? But to create applications which actually work or scale, we need to start using fetch, right? Fetch ka use will have to start. So we'll see that in today's session. But before that, let's quickly discuss how forms work in React, right? So yeah, let's do our basic setup real quick. Let me just copy. I mean, I'm not gonna go for browser for now because we all are very aware about how we can do that, right? So I'll just copy it from last session only. I'll come over here and I'll paste it, right? I'll create a div, the root div, right? So let's give it an ID of root, and over here we'll have a index.js. Let's create that file. So index.js. All right. So over here we'll have to define the root. So let's do that real quick. Let root equals to React dom dot create root, right? Root. And over here we'll have to do document dot get element by ID, and this will be root. Now again, React DOM dot create root kar rahe, don't you think React DOM is also an object? So you tell me, can we do something like this? Will it be fine? Let's say if I do const create root, and this is from React DOM. Will this be fine? Will this be fine? So now I can just directly use create root directly, right? And then finally I can do root dot render, and what I want to render, I want to render a app component. So let's create an app component, and this will just have h2, right? So let's just quickly call that app, and let's run our application, and yeah, so it works, right? All right. So next step will be, let's say if I have four different inputs, right? I have four different input and I want to take the input from it. So we can write four inputs, we can have four different states for it, and we can update it based on that, right? One way of doing it is that way. But given that we have forms, so won't it make sense that we start using forms, right? So if anyone remembers, how were we creating forms in JS? First, let's discuss that. So let's say form data. So how did we use to create forms in JS? Quickly. Am I audible, guys? Am I audible? Form contain input and button. Okay. What kind of button was it? What kind of button was it? Submit. Submit button. All right. Anything else? Any event that we used to attach or something? On submit. Okay. All right. Let's see. So let's say if I go and create a form right over here, and let's say this form has certain inputs in it, right? This, let's say, this will have a placeholder of uh, let's say title, right? Or let's say name, username rather, and let's have another input. This will be placeholder and email, and over here we can have the input, the closing placeholder. This will be password, right? And finally, we want to have a submit button, right? So I'll have another input, and this input will have the type as submit. This was the form that we used to have, right? Let's append this form. So let's call form data, and here, and let's wrap it up in, yeah. Okay. So over here we have a form. Now what I want to do is, whenever I'm clicking on this submit button, I want to trigger a function, right? So usually when we used to do form.add event listener, that function was supposed to be not function, what do we call them? Event. That event was supposed to be submit. And where do we used to connect it to? Submit kahan pe connect hota tha? Was it like attached to input this or this entire form? Remember when we used to do that, were we doing form के अंदर जो बटन है input, उसमें add event listener करते थे, or were we just doing form dot add event listener? So will it make sense to apply on submit here or on the form tag, according to that. On the form tag, on the form tag. So let's say I'm going for on submit over here. Take यहाँ पे I'm running a function which is called handle submit, right? And let's go over here. Let's run a function handle submit and this, right? So let's say if I do a console.log of hello over here, right? Will I be printing that hello because I'm submitting the form? If I click on submit, yes, yes, right? So if I click on submit, I'm printing that console. But something's happening that we have seen previously also. What's that? What's that? Event default. We have to get the event, right? So let's get the event and let's do event dot prevent default, right? And now if I do a console dot log hello, right? If I click on submit, you'll get see that we're getting the hello, right? So again, you don't have to do this entire passing of the event from here itself, right? If you're calling a function, by default, React will make this understanding to this function that I'm being submitted from a form. You can start having an event in yourself, right? So declarative way of doing things. You don't have to write everything. Most things will be done for you. Clear? So you can catch the event over here directly, right? Acha. Abhi, towards the next step, what will be the next step? To get hold of everything that's written inside. To get hold of everything that's written inside, right? So how do we used to do that? Event.target. Okay, let's see. Let's see. So if I do event.target, let's see what we're getting, right? Let's say if I fill something over here. Let's say email. Okay, type isn't it? So we can fill anything. And if I submit, we're getting the form. We're getting the form, right? Okay. So now there's one way wherein I can go for the form inputs, right? Or I can directly either give them an ID and accept that, right? So for agar hum IDs pick karte to then we'll have to go with on change every time. Rather, what we can do event.target. But that still won't make sense. क्यों नहीं बनाएगा? Because every time you're changing the input, you want the input to get updated in real time, right? Yes. Yes. So, I mean, we can give it a try. So let's say we are creating an object. Let's see. And over here, we can give this object a username, and that can be event dot target, right? And this should be 0 dot value, right? Let's see if I go and console dot log that object, are we getting it or not? So we type something over here, something 1 2 3. If I submit it, yeah, we're getting that username. Let's see if I'm updating it. If I submit it again, okay, we're getting all of that. So let's get the email also. So email event dot target, this will be 1 dot value, right? And then password we can accept as event dot target to dot value, right? So we're getting everything over here. Now the only thing that's left is we need to maintain a place where we are saving all the data, right? Right, एक जगह जहाँ पे we are saving all the data. So how do we do that? We'll need an array. We'll need an array, right? And that array के लिए we'll need to create a use state, right? So let's say we have a data and we wanna update that data each time that form is being updated. So we can destructure everything here. So we can destructure use state over here and React. And over here, we can just directly use use state and that will be an empty. And now over here, whenever this is submitted, I want to set the data with our I want to get the data, and then or data array will be updated, right? So let's just directly do this. We'll spread an array, right? The original data array, and then inside it we'll put our current object. Clear? Clear? And as soon as I submit this data, I want to show it on UI also. So how will I do that? How will I do that? Showing this on UI, make it on app. Okay. So app भी कर सकते हैं. Let's do. I mean that approach we have already seen. Let's do a child to child, right? So let's create एक तो form element हमें मिल रहा है. Let's create a container over here only, that div container, right? And in this div, we'll send whatever the updated data is. So let's go and create a const, and this will be show data, right? And in here, what we can do is, let's say we are getting all the data, right? So let's say we're getting the array. Let's call the show data first. Let's call the show data, and let's send that data. So data, so data array, and we'll go destructure that out, and over here we can return. And for now, let's just console.log that data. Let's see if we're getting that updated data or not, right? So let's say first time we're filling it, some username, which is email, gmail.com, and password 123. If I submit it, so we're getting that data. Let's say if we're updating it, we are getting both of these in, right? Okay. Now the only thing is to iterate over it and show it, right? So how can we simply iterate over it? Create one function map. Okay, so we are gonna do data.map, but before that we'll have to write JavaScript, so we'll need to create interpolation. I'll do data.map, right? And over here we're getting the element. All right, now for each specific data I want to create an array. I want to create a separate card or div. So in that case, what should I do here? I should create a div, separate div. But again, if it's HTML, it has to be returned. It has to be returned in this format. So I'll return. Right? Now over here, abhi we can start doing our stuff. Right? So I want p tag, right? In that I'll keep a b tag, and over here what I want data, right? So data पे iterate कर रहे हैं. I'll need element dot title. That we keep it there later. For now, let's just type as username, right? And over here we can put element dot username, right? And now as soon as I start filling stuff, let's say experiment again, something. If I submit it, I'll get that data updated over here. Now let's deal with this also. This error we have been seeing for a very long time. It says each child in a list should have a unique key prop. So where is a list and which child are we talking about? Can you figure out from the error? Can you guys figure it out from the error? Which child and which list are we talking? Object of array, because in the second para it says check the render method of show data, right? So in data we have two render methods, right? एक यहाँ पे return कर रहे हैं, एक यहाँ पे return कर रहे हैं. So first time while we are returning, do we have any list? I mean basically if you are getting list in console, it's either talking about array या फिर set, right? So for now we just have array. So over here we are not returning, or we are not dealing with array in the first return statement. No, So we'll move into second return statement. Over here, are we dealing with an array? Yes, that means basically every time you create a div, right? Based on like let's say you're mapping on something. So React says you don't want to lose these data. So what you want to do, you want to give it a unique ID, and that ID is given in an attribute of key. So we'll have a key over here for each div. हर div को एक ID देंगे. So for now, या तो we can generate a random ID, or we can have something which is always unique. Always unique in the sense for a particular div. So do we have indexes over here? जो कि kind of unique है for each div. So we can have indexes as key over here. That's fine. Right? So now that error will be gone. Clear? Let's do that same thing for other paras too. So this one and this one. Now over here, let's have email, and let's have password, and इसको भी change कर देते हैं. Let's make it as password, and let's make it as email. Clear? So now if I start filling something, let's say person one, say person1.com, right? And 123, if I submit it, we'll get this. Let's say if I update it, I'm saving something else, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I submit it, I'll get that particular data also. Okay. Abhi, the second order of thing that comes in here is that, are we putting any validation on form? As in, is my form validating something? No, no. So two ways of validating. Either you can validate over here in HTML, or you can validate from JavaScript itself. So let's do a simple validation. Username can be anything. It can be a mixture of anything. That's fine. But email should have type of email, and password should have type of password. Right? So now over here, I'll have username, I'll have email. Wait, did it refresh? So if I try submitting this, we are getting that particular error. You have to fix this. All right, that's fine. But there's one more course of validation that is needed. Let's say we are filling nothing in username. At least in email, we are filling something. So email dot gmail at the rate, right? It needs at the rate. So g.com, and this will be 123. Submit, right? तो अभी submit हो गया. Username में will have to do a kind of validation. So let's do one thing. When we are accepting it, right? When we are accepting it, we can say if target dot value is true, then only we'll set event dot target 0 dot value, right? So yeah, or we can do required. Fine. Okay, so it seems like you have already done validation while you're learning that, right? So here we can give it required, right? Required bhi nahi, so we can maybe give it a type as text, right? And then I think it should take something. But anyways, let's just go with required. Okay, so now if I try submitting it, so it will give me a reason that you have to fill this. Clear? Clear? Okay, so here like basic form validation is also done. Also, you can do the validation here also. You know that, right? You can write if and else statement based on that. Take, so any doubts in this? How you can create form, how you can submit stuff, how you can fill the data? No, and we have done it a lot of times, so I don't think this is something that you should do from your end. क्योंकि बाद में भी कर सकते हो. Right? One more small thing that let's quickly discuss here itself is that every time I'm filling some data, right? But the thing is that data is getting lost, right? Data is getting lost. Clear? Tire.value.length. Yeah. So that validation can be applied on password also, right? So that you can do over here. You can say that if like event dot target to dot is value dot length is greater than let's say 6, then only we'll let it enter, right? Else if it's less than 6, right, we can just simply return, right? Return as any, let's throw an error also, so alert, and we can say, wait, what's the error? Oh, we should be doing it in here. Alert, we can say password should be of at least 6 characters, right? I mean, you can apply more validations also. You can have an array of characters, and usme you can do includes. If it includes these characters, then only let it go, else return, right? So multiple courses of validation that you can apply. Let's say ki gmail.com, I'm just filling 1 2 3. If I submit it, I'm getting an error ki it should be 6 characters long. So let's say if I'm filling f at the rate gmail.com and 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, this time it will submit and we are showing the data. Fine. Fine. But one more small thing is that if I refresh the page, data will be gone, right? So how can we persist that data? Either use a database or use local storage. So how can we use local storage here? Leverage कैसे करें उसको? Let me clear the local storage. I think previous stuff will be there. So let's get back to console. So over here, first thing first, whenever we are setting the data, we'll have to send that data in local storage, right? So I can do local storage dot set item, and what do I want to set? I want to set data array, and then I can say JSON dot stringify. What do I want to set? I want to set the old data spreaded and the new data in it. Clear? So this is one step wherein we are just saving the data. Next thing is loading that data. So we can load it in line number 23 only. We can do it over here. We can say local storage dot get item, right? And we can say that is going to be data, right? And this entire thing has to be passed. So we'll do JSON dot pass. And so abhi, what we are saying, this use state, that by default at the very first time, you'll get the initial value as something that you're getting from local storage, right? But there's a small use case, that is there's a possibility that user is visiting that page for very first time, so they won't have anything in local storage. In that case, we'll have to give it an option of providing an empty array for that case. Clear? This statement makes sense. Line number 23 to everyone, right? Okay. So now if I start filling some data over here, let's say mail.com 1 2 3 4 5 6. I'm just going to copy this. I'm not going to type it every time. If I submit it, let's say this time we're changing it G and submit it. So we'll have new data. If I refresh it again, still the data persists. Clear? Clear? No issues? No issues? Line number 38, data array. What is it, sir? Line number 38. Line number 38, data array. This thing, it says key name. Key name, and we are storing data in it, right? Remember local storage. So if I show you the application over here, right? So yeah, data array is the name of the key, and you're storing value in that. right? So this data array is nothing but that thing. Clear? अच्छा एक सेकेंड देना मेरे को. Just give me a second. Back again. All right. So yeah, this is clear to everyone from filling validation and how we are populating the data after it. Any doubt still here? Whatever confusion that you had till tomorrow last time, anything left here? How persisting the data works? I mean, is it not a lot easier than what we used to do in JavaScript? Remember that load data, save data, and all, right? The thing is that now we have a constant idea of where the state is stored and how it's being rendered every time, right? So that's why React becomes more predictable than your JavaScript, like vanilla JavaScript at least. Clear? Okay. Now let's move towards fetching stuff and all, because that will be kind of more interesting than this thing. Key I is required for warning. Yeah. So it's not just about the warning. Going forward, you will understand. Abhishek in yesterday's stand-up brought up problem wherein we had a list and uske andar we had multiple lists, right? So given that like in JavaScript, you used to append stuff. That's why आप क्या करते थे? While appending, you are giving or creating list structure in DOM, right? So everything had an index. You don't have to worry about the specific position of it. But यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? Whenever you're creating multiple divs, you're not giving it a unique identifier, are we? No, right? कुछ unique नहीं जा रहा हर एक div में. In that case, what React did, उसने implicitly it created an attribute which React said, कि going forward, please just fill this attribute whenever you're creating a list, right? That's why whenever we create a list, iterate over it and write a tag. वो हमें देता है कि please provide key in it, right? So we have given that key attribute and we have given ID because ID is going to be index is going to be unique in each iteration. Right? And that attribute will be used later. Not usually, but it will be kind of somewhat of sense when we are learning about a hook which is called useref, right? But it's not very useful. It's just there to be present. Matlab, it's kind of a use case scenario. Either you want to use it or no, but it's still there, right? And you won't, मतलब regular basis पे you won't use it a lot. Usually जब हम use memo या use ref use करते हैं, then only that thing comes, right? ठीक है. All right. Any other doubts? This thing is clear to everyone, right? All right. ठीक है. So let's start doing fetch. So let's do a fetch.js. And over here, let's go and change this bit. So this will be fetch.js and index.js. We're going to copy two things, these two things. So fetch.js, yeah. Okay, so let's just run a stuff. This will be fetch data, and over here, it's going to create a component const fetch data, and yeah. Okay. So first thing first, let's do a basic fetch by using our that thing destructuring where of React DOM and all. So this will be create root, and create root, where do we get it from? React or React DOM? React DOM. So React DOM, and of course we are gonna use state. So use state be kari lete hain from React. All right. So fetching the data, right? Remember how do you used to fetch data? Fetch data. JSON placeholder API use किया हमने, right? because I think it has multiple to-dos in it. So JSON placeholder. Yeah, this one. So over here, I'm not sure, but एक post वाला होता था JSON placeholder to-dos. Let me check for posts once. Posts. हाँ ठीक है. So we get like these data, right? So let's use this API. ये वाला use करते हैं. All right. So what I want to do over here is whenever I'm visiting a page, user should get two options. Like for now, let's just go with one option. They should get a button wherein if you click on that button, you load the data, right? So what I want to do is on button click, I want to load the data. Sounds like something that we can do. Yes, yes. So I'll share the URL with you guys. Try it once from your end and let me know if fetch is still working the same in React or is it any different. I've shared the URL in chat. Please guys, एक बार try करो. This is the problem statement when the page loads. I just want a button here and when I click on the button, then only I want to show all the data over here. So for now, you can just console it. You don't want to show it, just console it. That's fine. So again, let's have a timeline for that. Let's take 4 minutes for it, right? So by 17, everyone please try it. On click, we have to show data on console. You can just console it for now. That's fine by me. It's just that I want you to try from your end first कि fetch वैसे ही काम कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है. Or is it any different? I mean, you know the answer, right? We're still using JavaScript only. Of course, it's gonna work same, right? Abhishek, print हो रहा है? Print हो रहा है? Console. Yes, ठीक है. Well done. Good. Form async, correct? Vikram, good. But yeah, start following again. If you're doing even a small fetch, na, make function of it. right? क्योंकि जितना modular approach we keep, right? I know कि when error come, modular approach goes kind of in frenzy, but that's fine. It looks neat, right? देखने में ठीक लगता है. Right, guys? Everyone? And all right, chalo. Let's see, guys. What focus up here? We'll do it together. So what we want over here is we want to return something, right? And that return will basically be we can have a div. We can have a div. Basically be a button, right? We'll have a button, and this button will have a on click, right? On click, and on click, what we want to do? We want to handle a click, and this will be fetch data button that we are giving user access to, right? So this button should be here. Fetch data returned. Mm, are we changing that? Fetch data.js is changed. This app is running. Then fetch data is called div. Wait, why don't we have a button? Let me check console. Let me close it. यहाँ पे check console. Handle. Oh, I have to define the function, right? Handle click. Check it. Chalo. Anyways, आ जाओ. So yeah, fetch data is there. Now what we want to do over here is we want to fetch the data. So let's make it const fetch handle click, and we are gonna use await. So should we start using async? Right, we are gonna use await. So let's rather start using async. Then let data equals to await, or let's call this response await. We want to do a fetch में जाएगा URL, right? And then finally we want to do let data equals to line number 7 will return readable stream या फिर JSON format. Two questions. Line number 7, will it return a readable stream or JSON format? अरे भूल गए क्या? Okay, let me console it. Console.log this, right? So let's click on this button. We're getting this console, right? So body के अंदर if I click, it's going to be a readable stream, right? So you have to do 2-3 things over here. First thing first, you have to like res, you have to you'll get a readable stream over here, right? And you have to convert it into first JSON format and then like data, iteratable data, right? Let's call it iteratable data. That was the reason why we were using .json rather than just directly doing json.pass. Remember? That's why we were doing that. So let data equals to await, and this was supposed to be res.json and this call again, right? So this was dealing with these everything. We don't have to worry about that. Again, this let data was returning a promise. That's why we are awaiting it. Res.json was a promise in itself. That's why we're returning it. All right. Now can I get access to this data? Now if I do console.data, we'll be getting that data, right? If I click on fetch data, we're getting all this data. What if I want to show all data over here in a list format? Let's say over here you have a div and it has ordered list, right? And over here these LIs, multiple LIs should be here, which should be showing all this data. What will be the first course of action? We have the data, we have to start iterating over it. What should be the first course of action? Because think about this, we have to click on a button. That's why I didn't loaded it directly. I told you guys to click on a button. Button click hoga, then we want to re-render our component, right? So what's something that can update that component on a re-render? What's that hook that we talked about? Use state. So if I go over here and if I say, what should we call it? Array, data array. Let's call it data array, and we'll say set data array, and this will be use state. It should be an empty array, right? Acha. Now, given that it's an empty array, and I go and do here set data array, and this will be just directly whatever data that we have fetched. We don't have to think about कि पिछली बार क्या data आया था, because it's just a basic get request, right? Basic get request है. So I can just do directly data array. No, data, right? I can just set that data over here, right? And I can start iterating over here, right? So let's say if I took this as null, would it have made any difference? We are already setting the set data array to date. So by default null कोई difference बनाता. Then why do we take array? Achha, think about this situation, because it's something that usually gives an error and we don't get an idea why that error is coming. You're going to iterate over data array, right? Because it is something that will change based on button clicks, and we're going to iterate over data array, right? Okay. So we're going to iterate over data array dot map. Now, by default, if that thing is not an array, this function will throw an error, right? That's why rather than taking null, still we will take an empty array, because this is acceptable. Even though it's an empty array, ये array method है map, so that's acceptable. Clear? Okay, so let's go over here. Let's get the element, and यहाँ पे let's write a return statement, and let's div name. We want li, right? And what do we want to put in li? I don't remember what exactly do we have over here. So let's put titles. Let's put titles. So I should do element dot title, right? All right. Now, why are we not printing everything? Why are we not showing everything? Like, why isn't things getting fetched? We have to click on button, right? Everything is like based on this handle click. By default, the array is empty. So see, in this case, you didn't get an idea कि यार data है कि नहीं है. Yes? Because let's say you're visiting this page for first time, you usually don't notice if data is fetched or not. So don't you think we should give user a heads up that data is not fetched? You have to click on button, right? So let's say I want to say it over here, right? I want to say I'm just going to show it with diagram, because वहाँ पे करूँगा तो maybe it might not make sense. What I want to do is just give me a second. I'll fetch my pen. Okay. All right. So क्या बात कर रहे थे? We had this button, right? All right. So once we are clicking on button, can I have this kind of functionality? Let's say this is a component. Inside that, I'll have two component. एक component ये होगा, एक component ये होगा, right? Now this component basically fetch shows fetch data, right? And this component, it is kind of there when no data is there. And this says empty or something. It says something, but it's a component. Getting the question? I have a component. In that, I have two components. I have a component which is being shown when use state has empty array in it, else if it has data in it, I'm showing all the data. So can I apply conditional rendering on this thing? Getting the statement? All right. So कैसे लगे? Think about that. How should we go about that? Use state. Okay. Okay. ठीक है. So let's say flag use कर रहे हैं, right? And we are using a set flag. And use state. Let's say by default it's false. How? So what should we do? Ternary operator. Where should I apply it? Okay. Let me pick this piece of code, right? Let's say over here, we'll first check if flag is true or not, right? So by default flag is false. By default flag is false. So we'll have a h2 over here, right? By default flag is false. So we'll have a h2 over here and it says no data, please click on fetch data, right? So when will this h2 show up? When will this h2 show up? Initially, if there's no data, right? So initially by default flag is false. So will it enter this condition? No. So let's say else condition में मैंने ये put कर दिया, right? So in this case, nothing will be shown. So let's do one thing. Let's just change this. Let's just change this flag to true. So by default, once the flag is true, we are showing no data. Please click on fetch data button. Right? Let's see if I'm clicking on fetch data. Now I should fetch data, but I won't be showing it over here. The reason being, the state of flag is still true. So we are just rendering this. This is not being rendered at all. So we have to update this use state. When do you think we should update it? Once the button is clicked, एक बार जब button दबाया तो we should update it. So let's go over here and let's do set flag and we'll say flag. Will this do the job? All right. So if I click on fetch data, we're getting all the fetch data in our UI. And if I click on it back again, we'll have no data again. Right? Fetch data, no data. Right? So can we change the inner syntax of it also, inner HTML of this button also, based on this toggle? Yes. Now everything can be changed. You have power over everything. Right? So all we have to do is we have to just make this guy dynamic. Right? So I can come over here and I'll say if flag is true. Flag is true, that means we are not showing anything. In that case, we'll say fetch data, right? And let's keep it in a string format because we're using JavaScript. And over here, we can say no data, right? So by default, यहाँ पे no data है and this button says fetch data. If I click on fetch data, this will by default turn into no data, right? And if I click on it again, fetch data, no. Clear? Clear? Can you think how easy pagination will be now? जब literally button खुद को render कर पा रहा है, right? तो अभी नहीं, we'll discuss more about it later. Clear? इतना बात समझ आ रहा है everyone? Everything is clear so far, right? Fetch makes sense. Fetch makes sense. अच्छा एक और छोटी सी चीज बताओ quickly. If I wanted to show all the data as soon as the page loaded, let me just copy this entire thing and let's go back. Let's create a separate file for this. Let's say loaded.js and over here let's create a loaded.js, loaded.js, and let's just paste this exact thing. right? But यहाँ पे I'm just gonna remove everything that we have done so far. मैं सब कुछ हटा देता हूँ, right? We just want to keep the OL. That's it. That's it. And we won't be needing the flag. Let me remove this also. No flag needed. Yes. What I want to do is, as soon as the page loads, I want to show all the data. How should I do that? I'm sorry. JavaScript में कैसे करते थे? How did we used to do in JavaScript? Function call. Function call. Don't you think it will still work here? Because at the end of the day, it's still JavaScript. Let's try that. Let's try that. So let's say handle click and let's call it. Is it working? Still, so that works. But although for now, for this sprint, we are going to use this. But let me tell you, this is not the way you should do a fetch in React, right? There's a hook that is created for it, which basically manages all the stuff. Again, it will come up later. For now, we can do it, but make sure that this is not a good practice in React. For now, it's you have the authority to do it. That's fine. Clear? Clear, but don't hard code it in your mind कि यही करना है आपसे. This will be deprecated from Monday, Tuesday onwards. So up until your evaluations, you feel free to use it. That's fine. Clear? ठीक है. Why are we getting this error again? Unique key. Each child in a list should have unique key. Key. Let's give it a key. So key equals to I. Let's define that I. So this is fine. Clear? Overall clear? Any doubts? Anything specifically? Nahi? Shall we move towards something else? Something else? एक और interesting चीज बताऊं. अच्छा, you guys remember like when we used to do fetch, basic get was working fine. We don't have to write anything. But remember when we used to do post and patch and all. Remember that. So we used to write methods, right? Method लिखने पड़ते थे. Right? So you have to remember all those things. Whatever I told you, you don't have to do that anymore. बस एक line लिखो and that's fine. Wouldn't that be great? Right? So ठीक है. Let me quickly introduce you guys to something which is called Axios. Right? So let's create another file. Axios.js. Anyone heard about this ever? Axios के बारे में सुना है? No. Okay. ठीक है. अभी बताते हैं. एक second. Let me. ये button is fine. चलो. Right. तो यहाँ पे अप्लाई करेंगे. तो basically by now are we aware कि what libraries and packages are, right? So it's something that we install in our application. For now our index.html file is just an index.html file. It's not React up until we install a library in it, right? So that library we install by using, for now we are doing cd and links, right? And have we installed React by doing this? Have we like pasted a script of React, right? Then have we done the same thing for React DOM? Have we done the same for Babel? Right? So these are all libraries only. Libraries only, or you can call them as packages. I mean, for now, we won't call them package because we are not installing them. But going forward, rather than writing src and all, we'll just install them by writing npm I. Right? Remember npm, the JSON server when we used to install. right? So this is when we will discuss about it. Again, this will come up in next sprint. But for now, these are all libraries. Similarly, Axios is a library which helps with fetch methods, right? So if it's a library and we are using the basic structure, we can't do npm Axios. So what's the option that we are left with to install a library in our application? Get a CDN link of it. Get a CDN link of it. तो जाके हमें Axios को भी CDN link से इंस्टॉल करना पड़ेगा. Let's go and search. Let's go and search about Axios. देखते हैं क्या चीज है क्या करता है. So if I go and write Axios, npm for now we won't go because we are not installing stuff. We'll go with documentation directly. And from here, we have to look for CDN links, right? Something that will attach to our SRC, right? So we'll scroll down. We have two different clients that are giving these CDN links. We have JS Deliver and Unpackage. Both will work same. It's just that अलग company के दवाई है, but दवाई के component same है. Clear? So let's say we are using this. Let's copy this. Let's go back and let's paste it in our index.html. So there. Just by doing this, we have initiated Axios in our system, right? System ni application, this index.html file. Now over here, go and start implementing Axios code. Tick. All right. So next step will be just to copy this URL. We don't need anything. Right. Over here, all we have to do is we have to write, we don't even need async function for this. We can just write Axios. We'll just access that Axios. And what method is it that we are using? When we retrieve the data, get method. So we'll write axios.get. Whichever method you're using, you just have to write the name of that method. That's it. Uske baad, just have to provide this URL. Now you don't have to think about converting anything from readable to JSON to usable data. Nothing. That's it. Bas ye ho gaya khatam. Right? You don't have to write fetch or anything. Next thing, you can just go and write your dot then, right? Get the response, and let's do one thing. For now, let's just console.log this response, right? So abhi, let's go and inspect. Let me close it. Let's go and inspect console, and let's click on the button. So are we getting the data? Getting the data, right? So this is how you do it with Axios. Now you'll say, okay, Ritesh, when we are using fetch, it was still of 2 lines, right? Then what are we getting in return from over here? You remember when we used to do post, right? So you have to write URL, then you have to write this method where you have to write headers and all, right? Headers, content type, headers, body, and content and all. Right now you won't have to do anything. If you want to do a post request, I'll show you. We'll create an API and then we'll discuss about it. All you have to do is you have to just go and write Axios, what method you're using, post. You'll provide the URL, and after comma, you just provide what you want to send. So let's say you want to send an object. That's it. You don't have to write a method or anything. If you have just written the name of that method, everything will be taken care of. So not just get request. From now onwards, everything will be just of 2 lines. Clear? Clear. So yeah, that's how Axios is a library that is used with like fetching and all, and that's how it helps us. So let's set this data up real quick. Res.data, we'll just update it for set data array, and we need to do 2-3 things. So let's create curly braces over here, set data, and we have to set the flag also from whatever the initial flag is. Right. So now still, if I do this, it should still work the same. Clear? Any doubts, at least in how to attach Axios in your system and how to get request. Why res.data? Because res was giving you an object. don't have to do this. Let me just do a console.log of res, right? So if I show you res, you're getting this object. In that object, you have config, you have headers and all. So from that, we need the data, right? That's why we did restore data. Clear, everyone? Any doubts? At least in Axios ka GET request. That's it. Any doubts in that? Check clear है. All right, that's great. ठीक है, so let's have a break over here, and then उसके बाद given that we already know how we can use fetch both ways, classical way of fetching and Axios way of fetching, let's move towards fetching from API, right? And as I told you, we won't be using JSON server anymore, so I'll introduce you to that new API that we were discussing about. Okay, so let's have a break of 5 minutes, and उसके बाद we'll discuss further things. So everyone, be back by 47. All right, everyone back. Yes, I need a bit more yeses. So whoever is present, please write yes or one or anything. All right. Okay, great. So yeah, that new API that we were talking about. Now we're gonna do a kind of a activity. So I want everyone to be present mindfully. Also try doing it with me. I'll give you a bit of a time to do this, but try keeping it up, right? So over here, first type Firebase out. So you'll get this URL. So firebase.google.com, right? If you visit this, you'll get to this homepage. So everyone please open this homepage. Once done, please write one in chat, right? And over here, you'll visit the console, right? So in this console, you'll get an overview key what your Firebase is and all. You won't need to create an account on it because if you're logged in browser, Firebase is like a vertical of Google only. So by default, it will log you in, right? And over here, guess where you'll have to click create a project, right? So you'll have to click on create a project because this is kind of a backend that you're setting up, right? So it's like a solid backend system wherein you just set your backend up, right? So over here you can name your project. So repeat again from homepage. You have to click on go to console. Go to console, right? Click on go to console and you will be here. Now from here you have to click on create project, right? So what do we want to name our project? I'm not sure. Let's just name it on data. No, any names? Basically, we're not gonna do much. We're just gonna put some data of users and all. That's it. Demo. चलो demo ही name कर देते हैं. Demo mark 1. Let's click on continue. Right now, in that second step, you have Google Analytics for your Firebase project. You don't have to switch Analytics on. Just switch it off. Right? Unnecessary. You will get notifications for no reasons. Take switch it off and click on create project. Once you do that, it will start creating a structure. So you have to wait for like 5 seconds or 10 based on what internet speed we have. Right? So let's just wait for it. So it's ready. Now if I click on continue, so it will take me to my project. So before we move any further, everyone please at least create a project and visit here. Everyone. And once you're done, please write one in chat. I want it. I want a one from everyone. So make sure you're doing that. Processing resources. Okay, we'll wait. We'll wait then. जब हो जाएगा तो बताना one. Done. All right. So now you can see the sidebar, right? Now here's multiple things are there, so you can start exploring it. Feel free to do that. But if you want to create a database, you'll have to click on build. If you want to try something else, you can do that, but later on, abhi ke liye, we'll click on build, right? Nothing is working. There is a power from. That's fine. You can do it later. Maybe watch the recording from 12:46 to 1. We'll be done with that. It takes like 2-3 minutes for setting it up. Nothing big. And over here, you'll click on real-time database. Yes. So let's click on it. If you click on it, it will start creating it. So yeah, and over here you'll click on create database. So let's click on it. There are some options that we'll have to pick, so please make sure that you're looking here, right? So over here, you have to select your location setting where a real-time database data will be stored, right? And we have a drop down. So we'll click on this drop down. For now, we just have three options over here. United States में एक server है, Belgium, Europe में एक server है, and Singapore, Asia में एक server है. So according to you guys, which should we pick? US, UK, or Asia? Nearest, always pick the nearest server. Nearest server, no idea, मतलब कभी ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म पे गेम नहीं खेलेगा. तो यूजुअली फॉर ऑनलाइन गेमिंग यू हैव वन सर्वर इन मुंबई, एक सर्वर होगा सिंगापुर में, और फिर एक टोक्यो में होगा फॉर एशिया, राइट? Over here we just have one server which is Singapore. So let's click on that and we'll click on next, right? Now this is kind of a security rule. So currently that rule is set to be read as false and write as false. We'll click on start in test mode, but I'll explain what this means a bit. So it doesn't matter anyway कि आप कौन सा अभी के लिए पिक कर रहे हो. We are gonna update this, right? So let's click on enable. So when we enable, again it starts creating that database, so might take a bit time. हाँ, तो now our database is ready, right? यहाँ पे एक छोटा सा step करना है. You have to visit rules. You'll see two options. एक होगा rules, I mean rules object है, उसके अंदर you have two options, dot read and dot write. Whichever option that you pick, logged pick करो या कोई सा भी. दूसरा pick करोगे तो there will be something written over here. That doesn't matter. What do you think read and write might mean in a database? Just think about it. You have a rules का section, वहां पे read is false and write is false. That means get and post, right? Right? Able to just visit that data, read that data, and able to update that data, right? So should it be false or should it be true for a database wherein we are gonna do CRUD? We are gonna create data, we are gonna fetch data. It should be true, so we are gonna update it with true. Right? Similarly, second case भी true हो जाएगा. Now, if you picked for second option, वहां पे भी erase everything and make it as true. Clear? Once you have done that, you can publish it. Right? And now your database is ready to use. The URL that you'll have to use is this URL. Clear? Clear? And for now, you don't have any data in it. Right? So data भी कैसे create होता है? Again, let me show you here. So yeah, let's say let's do a kind of a difference between, जैसे we used to do difference between this and that. Let's pick this. In rules it is written now. हाँ, तो remove that everything जो कि strings में है and make it true. Right? जो second वाला option choose किया है ना, उसमें true है for a certain period of time. तो वो जो time है वो seconds में दिया हो. Anyways, let's be back here. यहाँ पे this data is from JSON server. I'm just gonna create a derivative from here so that आप easily data कैसे आ रहा है उस पे login हो जाओ. Rule showing like this, just remove everything in string. वो string remove कर दो, now less than and make it true. Clear? Guys, everyone done till here? Rules is set to true. I mean, at the end, what you have to do, just erase this and everything should be rules, read true, write true. That's it. Get back to data. This is the URL that we're going to use to fetch stuff. Now, I was explaining how data is in, like it's kind of a bit different format. So that's why it needs kind of explaining. So we are going to talk about Firebase DB. Okay. So now JSON server mein, the JSON was stored in a JSON object. Remember? And in that JSON object, we used to create, let's say, users. And this users was an array of users जिसमें हम array of objects store करते थे. Like this. हाँ हाँ, तो दिखाने दो शेख. अभी do you want to store some data in it जो कि others can see और आपको harm करे? No, right? We just working on dummy project. They won't be able to steal your personal Google का info if they want, if they have this URL. ये database में जैसे JSON server में db.json में हम जो data store करते थे वो देख सकते हैं. They won't be able to see your account correct. Don't worry about it. All right. So back here now, we used to create something like this: true inside, true like this, or just true. Just keep it true. This is how you have to. It should be Boolean. Boolean होगा, ठीक है? This is done right, guys. Any doubts in this? क्योंकि बार बार वो टैब स्विचिंग. Clear? No? ठीक है. So over here, this is what we used to have a data. So let's say we have another data set. Let's say users. Let's say posts. तो these were like endpoints over here, right? एक अलग endpoint बन जाता था. You have LH. I'm just writing it as localhost. You have 3000, and उसके बाद you were writing users in this. इस तरीके से लिखते थे, right? Firebase में it's a bit different, right? Although this structure remains same, where you'll have users and you'll have posts, ये still same रहेगा, but inside this you won't be storing arrays. You'd rather be storing objects. So objects of objects मिलेंगे like this, right? And objects are supposed to have key value pairs. Objects are supposed to have key value pairs. तो यहाँ पे क्या होगा, आपको एक की दी जाएगी जो कि by default एक unique ID given होगी, right? They'll have a unique ID and you'll have an object associated with it. तो ID जो है वो key होगी और ये जो data होगा वो value. Clear? Clear. I'll show you with console ki how we are getting the data now. That will all make a bit more sense. Clear? Clear? So just give me a second. एक second. Right. Yeah. Sorry for that. हाँ ठीक है. My screen space पे लगेन, right? Alright, चलो. So how will we map on object? Yeah. That's something that we have to decide upon. So let's get back here. We have this URL again. Let's say कि in assignments or something, I give you a db.json file, right? So the question arises कि in db.json for JSON server, what you used to do, db.json copy करके db.json file में paste कर देते थे. That's it. But let's say कि here, if that data is given, you'll click here and you can just understand key what options are in, right? Either you can export this JSON data or you can import this JSON data, right? So let's say we go and create a JSON data over here, right? Let's say we're creating db.json. It's a dummy data, right? What did I tell you? What will be the structure of storing data? Objects of objects, right? So let's say we have a user schema over here, right? Again, I hope you guys are aware about MySQL, right? Mongo वगैरह पढ़ा है, right? तो that real time DB ना वही use कर रहा है, ठीक? तो in case you wanna make relation with it, I have learned it a lot, but like for distance ज़्यादा हो गया मेरे से, तो I won't exactly remember it. But this is the format where you store objects inside object. So over here, let's say कि you have another object, right? Users is an endpoint, and in that you have objects. Let's say we have first object as let's say user1, right? And in this object we are storing username, and we are storing, let's say, username one. What should we keep it? Let's keep it as this, and then we'll have email, right? So we'll have and we'll have password, right? So let's make it email. And let's make this guy password. square, right? So over here we can write 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just keep it in string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Similarly, we'll reciprocate a few things. Let's have few users. And this will be 2, this will be 3, and this will be 4, right? And we can have another names. Quickly suggest me some names. Or else I'll start keeping your names only here. Okay, John, Alan, Bob. ठीक है, एक भी भारतीय नाम नहीं है, भीम। चलो, और एक और बना देते हैं 5, and this will be Raju. Pick this. Let's make it as Alan, and let's make it as John, right? And everyone has a same password. Now this is the db.json that we want to import, right? So I'll go here and I'll click on import JSON, right? Now I'll browse, of course, and I'll visit home. I'll visit this folder, RCT, visit sprint, visit day 4, and I'll visit this db.json. I'll select it and I will import it, right? So it says data imported successfully. You'll see you have an endpoint over here, which is your user's endpoint. And if you click on it, you'll see user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4, and user 5 is by default stored over here. Clear? But if I'm gonna do a post request, right? So wahan pe user 1, user 2 won't be given. By default, a random ID will be assigned. That you will see shortly when we do post requests. Right? So this is clear how you can attach data in it and all, right? Visualization, maybe it's a bit more easier, handier, right? Plus, the thing is that you don't have to worry about how much data you have and you have to deploy it or anything. By default, would deploy it. You don't have to worry about that. Right? तो render वगैरह, you don't have to worry about that anymore. एक छोटी सी चीज के बारे में worry करना पड़ेगा, वो मैं दिखाता हूँ. So I'll just copy this URL and I'll get back to our application. Right, so what was the final file? We haven't created any file for Firebase. So let's create that. Firebase.js and index.html. Let's attach Firebase.js. And should we do it from scratch? Chalo, scratch se hi karte, but help me with suggestions, right? So let's go here and let's copy this. Let's copy these things, right? Axios में क्या क्या किया था मैं, but starting से करते हैं so that if anyone wasn't aware in that session, अभी ध्यान दे देंगे तो तब भी आइडिया लग जाएगा, ठीक है? ये तो फिर पिछली चीजें लेंगे, कुछ बंदे छोड़ देंगे. So let's write create root and equals to react DOM and we'll have use state and this will be react, ठीक है? Not DOM. Yeah. All right. Now let's create a fetch data. So fetch data. Fetch data. We create this. Return. Return. And this. All right. It works. All right. Okay. So the next step will be to fetch the data from Axios. Firebase, right? So let's go over here. Again, let's have a button for now. Why not? Let's have a button, and that button will be fetch data, right? Now that we have working and all, we don't need this. So over here, again, we're gonna have on click, and that on click is gonna basically do a handle click. And in over here, we'll have a function handle click, and we wanna do a get request over here. So we have imported Axios. Here's the link that I have. Just consider it as a URL for now. Paste in chat. How will you use Axios to get the data? Just paste it in chat. Again, you can use dummy URL. That's fine. नहीं नहीं, यूआरएल नहीं चाहिए मुझे आपका। एक्सियोस कैसे यूज करोगे? करेक्ट शेप, करेक्ट। So over here, all we have to do is we have to write axios.get. Again, keep this in mind. This won't directly apply if you haven't installed that CDN link, right? Not installed, embedded that CDN link, right? Let's go over here. Let's paste this URL and app slash क्यों आया यहाँ पे? Okay, might be copying error. Let's remove the slash and finally we'll do a dot then because it's a promise. And we are gonna console.log that response. Take, let's click on it. Let's see what we are getting. If I click on it, we are just getting some errors, which is uncaught network error and all, right? Access and all. The thing is that, again, if you remember local storage, JSON server, did you used to just directly make a response to that port, or you had to specifically give what endpoint you want to need? Endpoint. The endpoint usually is done by slash, right? So what's the endpoint over here? Users, users. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. If I click on it, still getting the same error. The thing is that this Firebase, it can support multiple different things, right? So you'll have to specifically mention what's the data that you have stored in it. Is it a JSON data? JSON data है. So all you have to do is, again, this is the only thing that is different from your JSON server. After the endpoint, you have to mention that in this JSON data is being stored. That's it, right? Now, if I go back and click on the button, I'll get that data, right? So that data will be present in here. So again, I'll do res.data and let's click on this button again, and I'm getting all this data. Clear? So everyone, please just replicate this piece of code where you are able to get the data on a button click. Nothing else. Everyone, and you have 4 minutes for this. Any errors, please put it in chat. Else, once you're done, please put one in chat. Please JSON data passed. Okay, you need the JSON data. This thing. Okay, I'll share the file with you only. File. अच्छा, file might take. देखने दो मेरे को. Sprint 1, day 4, tb.json. And this has to be shared with. Oh, pata nahi, there's some error. Anyways, I'll just share the code with you. I'll share it on Replit only. Yeah, guys, so here a URL. I've shared it in chat and you can access it. Everyone got the URL or not? Oh, wait, मैंने सिर्फ एक बंदे को भेजा है. Yeah, I hope you got it. All right, everyone, please do this. URL शेयर किया है अभी मैंने. मिला कि नहीं मिला सब? नहीं. Okay, sharing again. एक second. हाँ, shared it. Got it? Okay. ठीक है, चलो. Quickly replicate it. I'll open that file. Firebase.js. थोड़ा जल्दी करो because we have to do 2-3 more things with it. ये यूआरएल चल रहा है आपका डिफॉल्ट? आई थिंक यू हैव नेम्ड इट एज डेटा, राइट? You have to apply the endpoint also, slash the endpoint dot json, ये भी लिखना है. Zoom it out a bit. This part is like kind of very important. नहीं करोगे तो you'll get that course error. Is it fixed, Aditya? Double A Aditya. Fixed. Fine. अच्छा, ये देखो, अगर नहीं हो रहा हो ना तो एक बार ये एक्सटेंशन इंस्टॉल कर लेना, कोर्स एक्सटेंशन, राइट? और इसको इंस्टॉल करके परमिशन यस कर देना, ठीक है? हाँ, देखना एक बार. अरे मेरे को एक सेकंड देना, मैं आ रहा. डन हो गया, एटलीस्ट दिस गेटिंग द डेटा. ठीक है, ऑलराइट. सो नाउ एक छोटी सी दुविधा जो हमारे पास है वो ये है कि वी आर अकस्टम टू यूजिंग array dot map, but it's an object. So how will that happen? Any idea? This is a structure. Again, that logic building part आ गया थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे. This is a structure. Can I convert it in array format? I mean, for in loop, yeah, for in loop, you can go with it. But let's say कि मुझे ये structure को ही array में convert करना है. Can I not do that? ठीक है, तो एक छोटा सा आपके लिए एक सेल्फ टास्क है. I'll give you guys 3-4 minutes for that also. Figure out or play around this thing. Object dot I myself forgot the keyword. It's iterate or something. Right? Let me see. Object dot. I think entries or keys is there. ठीक है. हाँ, तो figure out about this object or entries and let me know. Entities नहीं, entries है वो. Object. I thought I was remembering instance for some reason. Entries. Figure play around this and let me know. Can we use this to convert our data into array? This data. For of entries required. Okay, ये एरर आ रहा है क्या? अच्छा, you're talking about for of loop. अच्छा, तो for of loop basically that is only used to iterate over something that is iterative, right? An object by default iteratable होता नहीं है, right? That's why you use for of. For of में क्या करते हो? Let key of object or entries और object लिखते हो, right? So that's where you can iterate over it. For key and value. हाँ तो वही try doing object dot entries with rest dot data. Let me know what you're getting. Acha, what I meant is, watch it. Please focus a bit. If I have an object, right, in this fashion, let's say one, hmm, one give it now. Let's go with A, one, B, two, C, three, and D, four. Right? We have an object like this. If I go and do console.log object.entries and uske andar I put my object, right? Let's go and print this. So here's the console that we are getting, right? What is it? Are we noticing something? क्या notice कर रहे हैं? Basically, each key value pair is converted into an array, right? And फिर सारी चीजें एक array में send किया. तो you have kind of a 2D array structure wherein you have key and value. You have key and value. Yes, yes, right? Either way, you have a iteratable structure wherein you can iterate over that object, right? You can say now, let's say, let m data equals to object dot entries, and you have this object. And what I can do now is I can do m data dot map element, right? And over here, if I do a console.log of ELU, right? Let's see what we are getting. Let's just comment this console out. We don't need this for now. If I click on fetch data, am I getting each and every element? So if I need the exact value, can I just do element one of it? And I'll get each and every value in it. Yes, yes. So got the loophole how we can iterate over that array of object of object. All we have to do is we have to just go here and do object dot entries and इसमें आ जाएगा आपका res dot data, right? And this we will set it somewhere. So let's have a data use state. So let's have let data comma set data equals to use state, and over here we'll have an empty array, and उस empty array में we are just gonna put all these things. So set data equals to object dot entry res dot data. Clear? Clear? Now one more thing. How will I show all that data over here? Let's say I have a div, and उस div में I'm doing data dot map, right? We'll get element again. Let's check the console. What we are getting over here? Clearly, click on this button. Uh, Data map console. Missing something? Okay, right. Fetch data. Data is here. Handle click pay. We are triggering this function. We are doing Axios dot get. Let's do a console.log of res over here also so that we get an idea what's happening over there. Okay, somehow our code is not working. Let me check. Okay, fine. Maybe network error or something. Let's refresh. Let's click on this one. Yeah. So let's remove this console also. For now, in our code, we just have one console over here. So we click on this fetch. That console is printing user1 and that data, user2 and that data. So if I want to just access that data, what should I do? Let usable or object data equals to element 1. If I do console.log of object data, if I click on fetch data, am I getting all the objects in it? Right? So guys, कैसे work around कर रहे हैं? Is that making sense to everyone? Because trust me, Firebase is going to come in evaluation. So make sure you are aware about this. We haven't done a lot for now. So if there's any doubt, please tell. Any doubts still here? How we are accessing the data, how we are getting each and every data in return in this format. Object.entries, is that not clear? Okay. So it convert array of array. So let's discuss about object.entries once again. Basically, Firebase returns object with another objects inside it, right? Object, this is the format how Firebase return things, right? Let's say data 1 is another object, right? Let's say इसमें A1. Similarly, you'll have data 2 and then you have another object. Similarly, you'll have data 3. Again, guys, starting from scratch, please make sure everyone's seeing this. C equals to 3. This is how your Firebase returns data. Just tell me yes or no on that statement. This is how Firebase returns your data. Right? Now, there's two way of looping over it. One, you can just directly use for in loop. That works for me. But again, the thing is that there are some features that objects don't have, which arrays have. So I would rather prefer my data in array format. So what I want to do is I want to convert this data that we have received from Firebase into a iteratable array. We have an inbuilt method which is called object.entries. What this do, it iterates over an object which you provide in here, right? वो iterate करेगा and it's gonna take each and every key and value thing, right? It's gonna create an overall array, right? And in that, each and every iteration पे whatever key and value you're getting, that will be stored in key and value, right? Similarly, for second iteration, everything will be stored in another array, key and value. So is this a two-dimensional array structure? You have array inside array. Everyone, is this clear? Right? So let me show you. Let's print and see. So let obj array equals to object dot entries and this will be obj. So if I go and do console.log of obj array, right? If I click on fetch data, we are getting this array. Right now, don't focus up on these things for now. We don't need to understand those. If I click on fetch data, you're getting this array. Exact format that we just saw. You have the keys as first element and the values as the second element. Right? So again, it's an array inside array. Itna part clear hai? Everyone? Everyone? Right? So now let's say that you have a 2D array, right? You have a 2D array. You have 1, 2, 3. You have 4, 5, 6. You have 7, 8, 9. Right? And what I'm doing is let array equals to this. मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? I'm doing for let I equals to 0. I is less than array dot length I plus plus. In this case, how many iterations will run? Just three. One element, second element, and third element. Right? So I can go and write console.log array I. So I will be 0, 1, and 2. If I want to print each and every element, I'll need to have a j also. Right? So now if I do array I and I keep j as 1. what will be the output in all three instances? 0th, first and second. What will be the output? First iteration में it will accept this array, and इसमें it will then find the element that we are mentioning. So that first element is 2. So we are providing that 2 over here. Similarly, second iteration में what's the first element? 5. We're providing 5 over here, and in third instance you have 8 over there. ठीक, विशाल ये क्लियर है क्यों 2, 5 और 8 आएगा? हाँ तभी बोलना जब सही में क्लियर हो। क्लियर है? ठीक है। So now if I click on fetch data, we are getting 2, 5 and 8. All right. If I make it 0, what will be the output? 1, 4 and 7, right? अभी उसी चीज को यहाँ पे implement करने का try. If I go and write obj, right? If I go and write for let I equals to 0, I is less than obj array I plus plus, right? And if I do console.log obj array I, for each iteration, given that we have just 3 data, so for each iteration, what will I be printing currently? Console statement, what should I be printing? Each array inside that it, each array inside that it, right? Obj array dot length, yeah. Right? So if I click on it, we are printing each and everything. Now, if I just want to print the object that is present inside that array, should I write 1 in it? Yes. Will I be getting all the values? All the values. Everyone. Right? So if I click over here, I'll get all the values. Right? So these are the values that are stored. Clear? So this is what we have to now start applying. Currently, object.entries किया है. So currently our set data is equals to object.entries res.data, right? So if I just console.log the element, console.log the ELE. Now try to understand this thing. Once I have done set data like this data is looking like this. Yes, with key and value in it, with key and value in it, with key and value in it. Yes, इस तरीके से दिख रहा है this array, right? And now if I'm looping over that data array, each element will be printed this, this and this over here. So data.map ELE is going to represent each array, each inner array, right? So if I click on it, you'll see I'm printing each inner array. And from this, if I just want to print that object, which is the value, should I do ELE1? Yes, everyone. So now if I go and print obj data जिसमें हमने ELE1 का value store किया है, if I go and print that, you will get each and every value. अभी clear है how did object.entries worked? Everyone, सबको clear है? Then I need yes from everyone. All right. So now that we have access to data, we can just simply start populating that data, right? No more issues with that. So let's go over here and we can start populating it. So over here we can have क्या क्या मिल रहा था यार मैं एक तो अच्छा चलो कोई यहाँ पे we'll have P and we'll have B and we'll have username, right? And this will be your क्या कहता है username, right? So we'll do obj data dot username, right? And we'll do P B and this will be ID था कि email था? Email, right? ठीक है. So over here we'll do obj data dot email and finally we had password, right? This one password and that will be obj data dot password. Clear? So let's click on fetch data and we have all the data populated over here, right? Password की I think we are missing something in here. अरे यार स्पेलिंग यहाँ पे गलत हो गई. चलो कोई नहीं, अब तो कर दिया डेटाबेस में गलत, तो अभी तो गलत ही लिखना पड़ेगा. This will be password. All right, so that's fine, right? And we can send a key prop in it. So let's create a div over here and let's make these div parent of these guys and let's send key in them and that will be the ID index. Okay, so if we click on fetch data, we'll get all the data over here, right? So now can everyone create Firebase server, use that link and show all the data in it after importing the JSON file? Works for everyone? Works for everyone? Take. Now let's move towards another method wherein we can post some data, right? Now let's try to post some data over there. So let's have a form over here. Now I'm just, again, time constraint की वजह से I'm not creating separate components, but I would highly recommend you have a separate form and you have a separate div. Highly recommend. ठीक है? Anyways, we can do it here itself. I'm getting error बाद में करते हैं अभी थोड़ा, अभी fixes नहीं करते error. ठीक है? Alright, so form, let's have input, right? We already have that input, so I'm just going to copy those inputs. Where was form file? Index.js, right? So guys, doing nothing, just copying this form. Just copying this form, nothing else. Going back in firebase.js, right? And just pasting this form, right? I'll go and create a function that will be basically handle submit and over here, yeah, back again. All right. So once we are submitting it, we need to get the e. We need to get e dot prevent default, right? And we need to get all the values. So let's create an object out of it, and that object is supposed to have username, right? That username is e dot target 0 dot value, right? We had email, so e dot target 1 dot value. And finally, we have password. So उधर गलत कर दिए spelling. So we are doing a wrong spelling over here. Target 2 dot value. Although you guys understand, in MySQL, the fields can be different, right? जैसे SQL में, it's necessary कि you keep the fields as it is, right? You have 4 fields every time. You just gonna have 4 fields. But for MySQL, you understand, NoSQL, you understand that's not true. Right? So that's something that you can maybe try around. ठीक है? चलो अभी for now, let's keep the password in this format and yeah, key is auto provided. Yeah, you don't have to provide key nahi, ID is auto provided. You don't have to provide it from your end. Right? ठीक है. And now over here, next step will be the object is here. Should we update it? And if we have to update it, कहाँ पे update करना है? Is it time to do Axios.post now? Remember, remember, right? So of course you can do your normal, regular, vanilla, classic fetch also with post method. But given that we are using Axios, why not go with post, right? So again, everything is in small. That's how the Axios work. I'm just going to copy the URL where we are pasting it. So let me just get this URL. Let's just define this URL overall, right? यहाँ पे define ही कर देते हैं. Const URL equals to this URL. So यहाँ पे भी we'll just have to write the URL, and here we'll just have to write the URL. Now usually if you're posting something, you need the URL and you need the body that you are sending, right? So the object that we are sending, right? And that's pretty much it. You don't have to write methods, you don't have to write anything else, right? But what we want to do is, once we have updated the data, do you want to reload that data? नया डेटा अपनी UI में भी दिखाना है, right? So let's write a then statement, right? Let's write a then, let's get a response. And over here, we can do multiple things. First thing first, if the response was successful, let's send an alert to user, right? Data added, or we're adding users, so I can say user added to Firebase DB success, right? We can write a catch also over here. So catch error, we can say, maybe we can alert user for some error happened. Try again, right? Anything else that we want to do? Alert के अलावा? Alert के अलावा, do you want to do anything else? Update the data. Update the data, right? So let's update the data. अच्छा, एक और चीज, keep a small thing in mind. Whenever you do this, na, you will have two things, right? Now, you know that we use state-based system. So you have a use state which has certain data in it. Yes? Once you are posting this data, right? You know that you are already sending that data in database. तो वो तो save हो रहा है database में. If user want to reload that data, they can click on fetch data, right? They can just, tab. They can just click on fetch data. They can fetch the data. But again, if I want to save one more GET request, can I not just update the set state over here? Set data, comma obj. So in this case, just for current render, we'll still have the new added user. Plus next time, अगर user fetch data पे click कर रहा है, they're already gonna run this. That means that database में that data is already updated. So it will by default get updated over, right? So now either you can call this handle click once again, right? Either you can call this handle click once again, or you can update the set data. So two things that you can do over here, right? So given that we have currently just created a button only and by default हम कुछ load नहीं कर रहे, तो over here for now, let's just call the handle. Right? Anything else that you want to do aside from handle click? Let's say we call this handle once we have updated the data. Right? पहले तो एक काम करते हैं. Let's add the data and let's see if we are getting the data or not. So let's add some username. So let's say person 6. I think 6 data it was. So 6@gmail.com, password 123. I submitted. It says user added to Firebase DB successfully, and we have all the data. So we have person 6 and all the previous data. And if I show you the database again, over here, maybe I'll have to refresh it. Let me refresh it. Yeah, so over here, can you see that a new user has been added? Right? तो ये IDs by default हमने दी थी, but if you're making a post request, what Firebase will do, it will give it an ID from their end only, right? And it will store all the data that you have sent. So you don't even have to worry about generating an ID anymore. ID अपने आप मिलेगा. And this is how backend actually works. You don't have to send ID from frontend. That doesn't make sense. Backend already tracks the IDs. Clear? So similarly, exactly how we did post request now, you'll do fetch, patch, and delete and all. Right? So again, I'll leave it to you guys. Try it out first, and then maybe we can discuss it later on. Maybe in tomorrow's PSC we can discuss more about these. But for now, I'll leave it to you guys. Just giving a brief कि how you can usually do patch over here. तो जब usual patch करते हैं, we do fetch, we give URL, and we start giving that object and all, right? With Axios, all you have to do is Axios dot, let's say patch करना है. तो can you guess what should I write here? Small में patch, right? Then you provide the URL. Just one thing that you have to keep in mind here, that you have to send dynamic ID, right? And what's this ID gonna be, guys? ID क्या होने वाला है? That dynamic ID, these things. So currently we have given them, इसको we have given a name from our end because we have given the JSON file. But if this guy generates, it will generate a random ID. Anywho, you'll send the ID, you'll give the ID, and you'll set whatever thing that you want to patch in, right? Whatever data that you want to patch. That's it. You don't have to write anything else. Similarly for delete, we'll do Axios dot delete. And for deleting, do we need ID? Do we need ID? Of course. So you give the ID, but do we need any further data for deleting? No, they'll just write it like this. That's it. Right? So Axios will put everything in just 1 to 2 line at max. Then of course dot then and all that, you can figure it out how you can do it. But you don't, after learning Axios, you don't anymore have to do this, right? Have to write methods, content type and all, वो by default खुद set कर लेते हैं. Clear? Put is also there. Yeah, everything is there. I've shown you this. ये कहाँ गया document? हाँ ये रहा ना. This document over here, you can go and check examples, right? You'll get everything. For now these examples won't make sense because it's like common JS usage, and like React वाला भी नहीं sense बनाएगा. So I would recommend कि chat GPT पे maybe ask about it, but I've given you the idea कि what you have to do, right? This is what's gonna happen. Patch के time you just have to give the ID and whatever data that you want to do. Put में you understand, right? Patch and put का difference पता है, तो you'll get an idea. Similarly, delete may be well. Clear? Clear? So, any doubts in whatever we have covered so far? We have implemented forms, we have implemented conditional rendering, we have understood what Firebase is, you don't have to deploy it or anything, and we have understood how we get or what format do we get data from Firebase, right? So, it's usually object inside object. We know how we can convert it into a usable format, our arrays. So you can do this, or you could have just used for in loop. That works. But again, sometimes you want to do some stuff with arrays जो कि आप objects के साथ नहीं कर सकते. That's why my preference usually is that I convert it into this format. And then you can just use it based on whatever index that you want to use. Key use करना है तो 1, 0, value use करना है तो 1, and so on and so forth. Right? And finally, we understood why we need this key attribute, so that React has an identification of that thing. Again, not something that is very necessary, but something that React will throw an error if you don't. Clear? Clear? So now you have tools to create full-fledged application based on React. Right? Still, a lot of things are missing, but itna jo bhi whatever we have learned in 4 sessions, now you can create web pages, whatever you did in JS, utna kar sakte, right? So in 4 days we have done all that. Just think about it. Next 2 sprint mein kya hoga? So we'll learn about a lot of things from next sprint onwards. Tuesday onwards, we'll start with the code, command rather, which will make your life much easier. You won't have to write things in this fashion. No more, right? It will all be fixed, right? So just make sure that you learn what Firebase is, how you can use it and all. If you feel that there's some issue with understanding these things, just revisit those parts and you will be fine. Clear? Make sure you're solving your assignments level 0 and level 1 at least on that day. And you have a weekend coming over. So make sure you give it a lot of practice. Because agar itna part you guys are very well with, na, you don't have any doubts or anything with this parts, you won't have any doubt going forward in React. Trust me. Clear? Any doubts? No?